In the cool hush of twilight, the world seems to exhale. The last light of the sun drapes across forgotten fields and sleeping hills, where fragments of stone rise like the ribs of an ancient creature long buried beneath time. The air holds a strange stillness here, as though the earth itself remembers something we have forgotten. These are the silent stones, witnesses to ages that stretch beyond the reach of written history. And though we pass them as travelers and tourists, there is something about their presence that quiets the mind and awakens an older part of our imagination. Tonight, we linger among them, unhurried, and let their mystery unfold. Across the continents, scattered like celestial patterns brought to ground, lie the megaliths, immense stones shaped, lifted, and placed by hands we no longer know. They stand in fields, on lonely islands, and atop misted mountains. Some form perfect circles, others align with the rising sun or the belt of Orion. Their weight defies the imagination, hundreds of tons balanced upon one another with a precision that still humbles modern engineers. And yet, their builders left no written words, no blueprints, no explanations carved in their wake. All that remains is stone, silent, enduring, and impossibly patient. In the modern world, we live surrounded by noise and light, by explanations and data. We pride ourselves on knowing, on defining the world in precise, measurable ways. But the megaliths belong to another rhythm entirely. They were shaped in a time when knowledge was felt through the body, when ritual, nature, and meaning were woven together. To stand before them is to stand at the border between the known and the unknowable. It is here, in this quiet threshold, that mystery breathes again. No single theory can fully explain them. Some say they were calendars, others temples, or markers of celestial cycles. To some, they were places of burial, to others, of worship or initiation. There are even those who whisper of technologies lost to time, forgotten sciences, or help from beyond the stars. Each theory reveals something about us, about our need to make sense of what resists understanding. But perhaps the truth is not meant to be solved like a puzzle. Perhaps it was always meant to be felt, a presence carried in stone, bridging the vast silence between humanity and the cosmos. When night falls, and the stars reappear above these ancient monuments, the division between past and present grows thin. The same constellations that watched over the builders still burn above us, their light taking thousands of years to reach our eyes. In that delay, we share a moment with the ancient ones, a continuity that humbles the restless pace of our modern lives. Somewhere between the chill of the air and the soft hum of insects, we feel a faint awareness that long before our empires and technologies, there were people who looked upon the sky with the same wonder and sought to anchor eternity into the earth. The stones speak, not in words but in silence. Their language is geometry and gravity, patience and endurance. Each surface, each alignment carries intention, as though the builders tried to tell us something beyond language. Were they measuring the heavens or measuring themselves against them? The thought lingers like a faint echo in the still air. Every civilization believes itself to be at the peak of understanding. Yet these structures remind us that knowledge is cyclical, discovered, lost, and rediscovered again. They are not relics of ignorance, but monuments to curiosity. The people who shaped them looked at the same world we do and saw in it something sacred. To them, perhaps, stone was not dead matter, but living earth shaped into memory. And when we look at these megaliths now, with our scientific instruments and analytical minds, we may find data, but they found presence. So we begin here, at the threshold of stone and silence. This journey will move from the known to the unknown, from the deserts of the Middle East to the green plains of Europe, from the peaks of the Andes to the depths of the ocean floor. Along the way, we will encounter questions that have endured for millennia. Who built these monuments? How do they move the unmovable? What purpose do they serve? And most mysteriously, why do they still call to us across time? As the first stars shimmer over the ancient landscape, we allow the mind to soften, the pace to slow. We are not here to prove or disprove, to argue or to solve. We are here to listen to the silence that hums beneath history. Somewhere in that silence, between fact and faith, reason and dream, the voice of the old world still whispers. It is the voice of the builders, nameless, tireless, and forever reaching toward the infinite. And as night deepens, the stones seem to breathe again, holding in their quiet weight the echo of eternity. Before the first temple stones were raised, before words were carved or fires were tended in permanent hearths, the earth was a vast and wandering place. Humanity drifted like the wind, moving through forests and along riverbanks, following herds, chasing seasons. The people of this forgotten age lived close to the bones of the world. Their tools were simple, their shelters brief, yet within their eyes burned a fierce intelligence, an awareness of rhythm, of sky and soil, of the subtle harmony that binds all things. It was from this silence, this raw intimacy with nature, that the first great monuments of stone would one day rise. Archaeologists tell us that the age before agriculture was one of survival, not artifice, yet evidence continues to disturb that neat assumption. Deep in caves across Europe and Asia, there are paintings so old their pigments predate recorded time itself. They show animals in motion, constellations disguised as herds, human hands pressed like signatures across the walls. These were not random markings. They were language before letters, symbols of connection between the visible world and the unseen. Humanity was already dreaming, already searching for a way to hold eternity in its grasp. Somewhere, perhaps around the end of the last ice age, something shifted. The glaciers began to retreat. The great beasts that once roamed the plains disappeared, and with them came a quiet evolution in the human spirit. The people who had once moved endlessly began to stay. Villages formed near fertile soil. Grains were gathered, stored, cultivated. With this newfound stillness came something profound. Time to think, to plan, to build. The first sparks of civilization began to glow. But even before cities, before kings or empires, these early people began shaping stones, lifting them from the earth as though responding to a silent call. It is this mystery that puzzles historians and scientists alike. How could communities without metal tools or beasts of burden raise stones weighing many tons? What drove them to undertake such monumental acts of creation? Conventional history places the rise of complex architecture around 4000 BCE, yet the Earth tells a different story. Scattered clues suggest that megalithic structures existed thousands of years earlier, monuments that defy the expected timeline of human progress. These contradictions whisper of a forgotten chapter in our species' story, an age not of ignorance, but of insight lost. The remains of sites like Gobekli Tepe, emerging from the soil of southeastern Turkey, push the boundaries of everything we thought we knew. Built more than 11,000 years ago, it predates both Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids by millennia. Massive pillars carved with intricate reliefs of animals, perfectly balanced in circular enclosures, created by people still thought to be hunter-gatherers. The paradox is staggering. How could such architectural complexity exist before agriculture, writing, or even pottery? The answer remains elusive. Some scholars propose that human intelligence and social cooperation were far more advanced than previously believed, that spirituality and science once grew from the same root. Others suggest there may have been civilizations that rose and fell before the dawn of our known history, their memory surviving only in myth. Whatever the truth, these discoveries illuminate a deeper pattern. Humanity has always sought to shape meaning into matter, to lift the invisible into form. As the earth warmed and climates changed, coastlines shifted and entire regions vanished beneath rising seas. Perhaps in those flooded lands lie the missing pages of our earliest story, evidence of settlements erased by water and time. Legends from nearly every culture speak of such cataclysms, floods that swallowed the world, cities lost beneath waves, gods who rebuilt humanity from what remained. Could these myths be faint memories of real events, encoded in story to survive forgetting? The transition from nomad to builder was not merely physical, it was spiritual. To anchor stones in the earth was to anchor the self, to declare permanence in a world that had always been transient. Each monument, each mound or standing pillar, became both a calendar and a compass, a reminder of humanity's growing awareness of its place in the cosmos. The sun's path was charted, the solstice marked, the stars observed. Through these acts, the first architects also became astronomers, priests, and philosophers. They began to measure time not by seasons alone, but by eternity itself. Still, for every discovery, there remains an absence, a quiet question that hums beneath the soil. Why did so many of these early structures eventually vanish, buried deliberately, as if by ritual? Gobekli Tepe, for example, was intentionally covered by its own builders, sealed in layers of earth as though to protect it, or perhaps to hide it from eyes not yet ready to understand. Such mystery suggests that the story of humanity is not linear but cyclical, that civilizations may rise, leave behind their monuments, and fade, their memory carried only in stone and myth. And so, as we trace this deep history, we begin to sense the fragile continuity between then and now. The builders of the old world were not primitive shadows of ourselves. They were dreamers, stargazers, and seekers. They looked at the same moon, felt the same winds, feared the same darkness. Their monuments are echoes of a universal longing, the desire to reach beyond the human span of life, to touch something eternal. Perhaps that is the true heart of the mystery. The megaliths are not just artifacts of engineering. They are poems written in stone, testaments to a consciousness that refused to be small. They remind us that intelligence wears many forms, and that knowledge can be as easily forgotten as it is discovered. Beneath our modern cities, our lights, and our certainty, we are still their descendants, beings who shape the world not only to live in it, but to understand it. As night deepens over the ancient plains, one can almost feel the pulse of that first awakening, the moment when the human spirit looked upon the vastness of creation and decided to leave a mark upon it. The age before time was not an age of darkness, but of quiet beginnings, when hands of flesh and bone first reached for stone and, in doing so, reached for the divine. In the barren hills of southeastern Turkey, a strange landscape emerges from the dust. Weathered limestone pillars arranged in circles, their surfaces etched with animals, symbols, and abstract shapes. For thousands of years, these stones lay buried beneath layers of soil, forgotten by history. Then, in mid-1990s, a team of archaeologists uncovered what would become one of the most extraordinary discoveries in the story of humankind. They called it Gobekli Tepe, the Potbelly Hill. What they found there would forever change our understanding of civilization's dawn. The site appears at first like a scattering of broken ruins, but beneath the surface lies a vast and deliberate design. Towering T-shaped monoliths, each weighing between 10 and 50 tons, stand arranged in perfect circles. Some reach as high as 16 feet. Their faces are smooth, their edges carved with care. Upon them dance carvings of wild animals. Lions, vultures, snakes, foxes, scorpions, cranes. These creatures seem to move and twist across the stone as though alive. There are no signs of domestic life here. No homes, no hearths, no signs of farming or settlement. This was not a village. It was a place of gathering, of ceremony, perhaps of worship. It is, as some call it, the world's first temple. What makes Gobekli Tepe so astonishing is its age. Radiocarbon dating places its construction around 9,600 BCE, more than 11,000 years ago. That is 6,000 years before the pyramids of Egypt, 7,000 years before Stonehenge. According to everything we once believed, humans at that time were still hunter-gatherers, moving with the seasons, without cities or complex tools. They should not have had the organization, resources, or technology to move and shape such massive stones, let alone align them with celestial precision. Yet here they stand, silent and immovable, as though waiting for the rest of history to catch up. The discovery of Gobekli Tepe forced archaeologists to reconsider what it means to be civilized. Perhaps it was not agriculture that gave birth to religion and art, as once thought, but the other way around. Perhaps it was the shared act of building something sacred that drew people together, that created community, ritual, and eventually civilization itself. The stones of Gobekli Tepe may be the first expression of that mysterious force that compels humans to reach for the eternal, the desire to touch the infinite through creation. Each pillar is shaped like a human, the T-forms representing stylized figures with arms and hands carved along their sides. They stand facing one another, as if in eternal dialogue. In the center of each circle, two larger pillars rise like sentinels, watching over the space. Some believe they represent deities, ancestors, or cosmic beings, the intermediaries between the heavens and the earth. Others think they mark the connection between the physical and spiritual worlds, serving as a kind of cosmic axis. The layout of the site suggests deep astronomical knowledge. Certain enclosures align with the rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, an event that would have held profound meaning for ancient observers. There is something hauntingly deliberate about how the site was eventually buried. Sometime around 8000 BCE, after more than a millennium of use, the people who built Gobekli Tepe began covering it with earth and debris. Each enclosure was filled in carefully, almost lovingly, as though to preserve it. This was not the destruction of abandonment. It was ritual burial. Why would they conceal what must have been their most sacred space? No one knows. Some believe it was a gesture of closure, the ending of an age. Others suggest that the site's purpose had been fulfilled, and it was returned to the earth as an offering. The carvings on the stones invite endless speculation. They are not mere decoration, but appear to form a symbolic language, one we can no longer read. A vulture holds a sphere. A fox runs beneath a crescent. Snakes coil around a headless figure. Some researchers interpret these as astronomical codes, recording the positions of stars or comets. Others see them as metaphors, life, death, rebirth. To look upon them is to feel the weight of meaning that cannot be spoken, as though the stones themselves remember a story we have forgotten. As we wander through the dust and broken fragments of Gobekli Tepe, it becomes clear that this place was not built for survival. It was built for meaning. Its builders must have labored for years to quarry, carve, and raise each stone, using only primitive tools of flint and bone. They would have needed to coordinate hundreds of people, an astonishing feat for a society without towns or written plans. Yet they did it guided not by conquest or necessity, but by devotion. It speaks of a humanity already capable of abstract thought, of imagination, of spiritual depth. What kind of world did these builders inhabit? Around them, the landscape would have been green and fertile, a place of rolling hills, wild grain, and flowing rivers. This was the cradle of what would later become the Fertile Crescent, the birthplace of agriculture. Perhaps Gobekli Tepe played a role in that transformation. People gathered here for ritual and trade, for feasting and storytelling. In doing so, they may have sparked the exchange of knowledge and seeds that would eventually lead to farming, the very foundation of civilization. If so, then this temple was not merely the product of civilization's dawn, but the spark that ignited it. The calm voice of the historian is matched by the hum of mystery. Were these builders ordinary humans, or inheritors of a lost tradition? Some alternative thinkers suggest Gobekli Tepe could be the echo of an earlier civilization, one that survived a cataclysm at the end of the Ice Age, a memory of the world before the flood myths that echo in every culture. They point to the sudden emergence of monumental architecture here, with no apparent evolution leading up to it, as evidence of knowledge passed down rather than discovered anew. Whether such theories hold truth or not, they remind us of how little we truly know about our own beginnings. Standing amid the stones as the sun sets, the landscape glows gold and crimson. The shadows lengthen across the pillars, the carved animals seeming to stir in the fading light. It feels as if the air itself is charged with memory, a stillness so profound it borders on the sacred. In that silence, one senses that these stones are more than ruins. They are messages, not to the people of their own time, but to us. Proof that long before our written histories began, human hands were already shaping the world into a reflection of the heavens. Gobekli Tepe is not merely an archaeological site. It is a mirror held up to our own forgotten potential. It shows that civilization did not begin with the plow, but with awe, that before we learned to master the earth, we learned to wonder at it. Somewhere within these stones lies the memory of that first awakening, when humanity stepped from the wilderness into meaning and the eternal conversation between earth and sky began. The further one travels among the world's megaliths, the more a single question begins to echo. How? How did ancient hands move stones the size of houses, lift them into alignment, and carve them with such exquisite precision? It is a question that hums through deserts, valleys, and islands alike, unanswered and undiminished by centuries of study. Archaeologists measure, engineers theorize, and yet the simplest truth remains elusive. The technology of the ancients was not primitive. It was different, guided by an understanding of nature and cooperation that modern eyes can barely imagine. To move a stone weighing 100 tons is no small act, even with cranes and engines. Yet across the world, long before metal or the wheel, such feats were achieved with quiet regularity. Consider the trilithons of Baalbek, each larger than a locomotive, or the perfectly balanced lintels of Stonehenge, raised by people without iron. On Easter Island, massive Moai statues were walked upright for miles across rough terrain, their creators leaving only whispers of the method behind. The pattern repeats so often in so many places that coincidence feels inadequate. Humanity, at some early point, seems to have touched upon a knowledge now forgotten, a deep familiarity with the Earth's balance, sound, and rhythm. Some researchers have suggested that the answer lies not in lost machines, but in unity, thousands of individuals working with purpose, rhythm, and patience. Experiments in modern times have shown that even colossal stones can be moved when many hands act as one, guided by song, by coordination, by belief. To lift such stones was not merely an act of strength. It was an act of community, perhaps even of worship. The work itself may have been ritual, the shaping of matter into meaning. What we see as architecture, they may have seen as ceremony, as a way to speak with the universe through stone. Still, there are aspects that defy simple explanations. Many megaliths show signs of precision cutting, angles so exact that thin blades of light pass between the joints. In South America, stones interlock like puzzle pieces with no mortar to hold them. In Egypt, drill holes and tool marks suggest methods that should not have existed for millennia. Could such precision truly be achieved with stone hammers and copper chisels? The official answers say yes, but when one stands before these walls, the mind whispers otherwise. It is not arrogance to doubt. It is wonder, the first step toward rediscovery. Perhaps our ancestors understood forces we have overlooked, the subtle energies of sound and vibration, the leverage of water and temperature. Some scientists have proposed that ancient builders used acoustic resonance to ease the movement of stones, chanting and drumming to match frequencies that loosened the Earth's grip. Others speak of knowledge of magnetism, or of a keen observation of lunar cycles and tides that dictated when certain materials became lighter or more malleable. Such theories border on the poetic, yet the ancients themselves lived in a poetic world where science and spirit were one. The truth, though, may not lie in technology at all, but in perception. Modern civilization separates itself from the natural world. We see earth as matter, stone as object. But to those early builders, the world was alive. Stone was not a dead thing to be moved. It was a participant, a vessel of spirit. In animist cultures still surviving today, builders speak to their materials, asking permission before shaping them. They believe every object has a consciousness. When one sees through that lens, the construction of megaliths becomes less about force and more about harmony, an act of listening, not conquering. Consider how these monuments endure. Through earthquakes, storms, and millennia of erosion, they remain standing. The geometry of their placement often mirrors celestial alignments, the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. They seem built not just upon the earth, but with it, responding to its contours, its magnetic lines, its pulse. It is as if the builders understood that to make something eternal, one must work with nature, not against it. This sensitivity, this quiet intelligence, is perhaps the most advanced technology of all. There is another, more haunting idea, that these structures are fragments of a global pattern, remnants of a knowledge once shared across continents. How could cultures separated by oceans produce monuments so alike in scale and purpose? The circular sanctuaries of Britain resemble those in Malta. The step pyramids of Central America echo those of Egypt and Mesopotamia. Each civilization claims independent origin, yet the symmetry of their architecture suggests otherwise. Was there an ancient exchange of knowledge long before recorded history, or a universal impulse within the human spirit to lift the heavy toward the light? Even within our skepticism, awe persists. The practical mind searches for levers and pulleys, while the quiet heart senses something greater. The will of a people who saw no distinction between human and divine. To build a temple or a stone circle was not merely to display mastery over the material world. It was to inscribe spirit into it. Each stone placed was an act of faith, a rhythm between breath and eternity. Modern engineering can reconstruct the mechanics, but not the meaning. We can replicate the motions, but not the silence, the sacred purpose behind them. The ancients may have labored under the open sky for reasons lost to us, to honor ancestors, to chart the heavens, to align their world with forces unseen. Yet within that act lay something universal, the desire to reach beyond limitation, to turn weight into wonder. When the last stone was raised, perhaps the builders stood in silence, feeling the world shift around them. The monument was not just structure, but message, a bridge between generations, between heaven and earth. It endures because it was built with something we have almost forgotten, reverence. And so, when we gaze upon these impossible stones today, we do not see the ignorance of our ancestors. We see their patience, their devotion, their dialogue with time itself. Whether their methods were physical or metaphysical, practical or profound, one truth remains: they achieved the impossible not through domination, but through understanding. In their hands, stone became story, and through that story they still speak. Perhaps that is the answer that has been waiting all along, that the true mystery of the megaliths is not how they were built, but why they continue to move us. They remind us that the human spirit has always reached for the impossible, not to escape the earth, but to feel more deeply connected to it. And as the evening sun casts long shadows across their ancient faces, one can almost hear the quiet rhythm of their builders' hearts, still beating within the stone. In the rolling plains of southern England, where mist drifts low over green fields and skylarks call above the horizon, a circle of ancient stones rises from the earth. Their shapes are softened by centuries of weather, yet they remain powerful, solemn, and strangely alive. This is Stonehenge, a monument so old that it predates the pyramids, so mysterious that it continues to resist full explanation. It stands alone on the Salisbury Plain, surrounded by silence and wind, a gathering of monoliths that seem to hold the sky in place. At dawn, the first light of the sun spills over the horizon and touches the stones. The alignment is exact. For a brief moment, the rays pass through the entrance stones and illuminate the heart of the circle, where people once stood in reverence thousands of years ago. The effect is both mathematical and mystical, an act of precision, but also of faith. Whoever built Stonehenge understood the movements of the heavens, the tilt of the earth, and the rhythm of the seasons. Yet they also understood something more intangible, the human need to belong to the cosmos, to weave meaning between the sun, the moon, and the soul. Archaeologists tell us that Stonehenge was built in stages over many centuries. The first phase began around 3000 BCE, when a simple circular ditch was dug into the chalky soil. Over time, larger stones were raised, some transported from quarries nearly 200 miles away in the Welsh Mountains. How these massive bluestones were moved remains uncertain. Some theories suggest sledges and rollers. Others propose waterways or ice-assisted movement. But the real question is not only how they were moved, but why. Why gather, carve, and align such enormous stones in a place where there was no city, no kingdom, no ruler to command the labor? The answer may lie in what Stonehenge meant to its builders. It was more than a calendar, more than a temple. It was a cosmic instrument. Each stone was placed to mark celestial events, the solstices, the equinoxes, the lunar standstills. When the midsummer sun rose, its light struck a specific stone. When winter came, the setting sun fell perfectly along another axis. Through these alignments, the builders created a bridge between heaven and earth. To stand within the circle was to stand within time itself, surrounded by the great cycles of nature rendered in stone. Yet Stonehenge was not just about the sky. Beneath the surface, archaeologists have found traces of cremation burials, suggesting it was also a sacred resting place for the dead. The ancestors may have been honored here, their spirits thought to join the sun in its eternal journey. In this way, Stonehenge connected not only the living to the cosmos, but also the living to the departed. It was a threshold, a meeting point between worlds. Legends, as always, grew around such places. The earliest myths claimed that giants brought the stones from a distant land, carrying them across sea and hill. Others said the magician Merlin moved them with enchantments, reassembling a sacred monument from Ireland. Still others believed they were the work of gods or an ancient race long vanished. The truth behind these myths may not lie in literal events, but in symbolism. The stories suggest that even in ancient times, people understood Stonehenge to be beyond ordinary human effort, something almost divine in its creation. When modern visitors walk among the stones, they feel an uncanny quiet. The wind seems to soften, the air thick with history. The stones are cold to the touch, yet there is warmth in the way they catch the light, as though absorbing centuries of sunrise. One cannot help but sense intention in their arrangement. The way the trilithons form portals, the way their shadows shift like a sundial for the gods. These were not random placements. They were acts of harmony. The builders must have believed that by mirroring the heavens on earth, they were maintaining the balance of the world. The deeper one studies Stonehenge, the more it reveals its layers. Surrounding the main circle are smaller rings, barrows, and earthworks, forming a vast ceremonial landscape. Paths connected to nearby rivers, suggesting the processions once took place between water and stone, between life's flow and death's stillness. Excavations have revealed evidence of feasting, gatherings, and rituals that may have involved thousands of people. This was not an isolated monument. It was part of a living culture where cosmic order and human celebration intertwined. What is most striking, however, is the precision hidden within its apparent simplicity. The diameter of the circle, the spacing of the stones, even their proportions seem to follow mathematical ratios found in nature, the geometry of harmony. Some researchers believe that the builders possessed a deep understanding of acoustics as well. Within the circle, sounds resonate differently, amplifying chants and songs. Perhaps Stonehenge was not only a temple of sight, but also of sound, designed to make the voice of the ritual echo like thunder beneath the open sky. Over the millennia, Stonehenge has been shaped by change and time. Some stones have fallen, others lean or have been lost entirely. Yet its essence endures. It is a testament not to a single people or moment, but to the universal human impulse to connect with something larger. The monument's mystery has survived not because it withholds its secrets, but because it keeps offering new ones, each generation seeing something of its own reflection in those weathered stones. In a way, Stonehenge is both a mystery and a mirror. It shows us the timeless dialogue between reason and wonder, between those who seek the measurable and those who seek the meaningful. It reminds us that architecture was once an act of prayer, that building was once a sacred language. The circle's perfect geometry whispers of a world where science was born from reverence, not ambition. As the day fades and the last light bleeds across the sky, the stones turn silver against the deepening blue. Shadows lengthen across the grass, stretching toward the horizon as though pointing home. In that quiet hour, one can almost hear the low murmur of ancient voices, the rhythm of footsteps circling the sacred ground. They are gone now, those builders of the dawn, but their work remains steady, patient, eternal. Stonehenge is not merely a relic of the past. It is a reminder that the search for meaning, the longing to understand our place in the cosmos, has always been with us. The people who raised those stones were not so different from us. They, too, looked to the stars and wondered. They, too, sought order in the mystery of existence. And though the centuries have buried their names, their message endures in the quiet geometry of their creation. Every sunrise over Stonehenge is a whisper from the old world, telling us that the universe is not separate from us, but reflected in every circle, every stone, and every breath of wind across the plain. Far across the sea from the windswept plains of England lies another circle of stones, smaller but no less haunting, the Callanish standing stones of Scotland's Outer Hebrides. Here, on the remote Isle of Lewis, the Atlantic winds sweep across moors of peat and heather, and the light itself feels older, more deliberate. The stones rise from the landscape like ancient sentinels, weathered by salt and rain, their gray surfaces etched with time. Standing among them, one feels the same quiet awe that surrounds Stonehenge, yet Callanish hold a mood entirely its own, lonelier, more dreamlike, touched by something deeply cosmic. At dawn, when the mist drifts low across the island, the stones appear as shadows, half real, as though the boundary between worlds is thinner here. And in a sense it is. For the builders of Callanish, who raised these stones more than 4,000 years ago, the universe was alive with meaning. The earth was not a separate realm from the heavens. It was a mirror of them. Each stone, each line, was a reflection of something above, an attempt to bring the cosmic order down to the human world. The alignment of the Callanish stones, with their cruciform pattern and central circle, reveals a sophistication that speaks of observation, reverence, and celestial knowledge. Archaeologists have noted that the stones align with the movements of the moon, particularly the phenomenon known as the major lunar standstill. Every 18.6 years, the moon reaches its extreme northern and southern rising points, a slow, grand rhythm of the cosmos. At Callanish, when the moon reaches this position, it appears to skim the horizon, sliding along the tops of distant hills in a spectacle that would have stirred awe in anyone watching. For the people who built these stones, this event may not have been just astronomical. It was spiritual. The movement of the moon could have symbolized cycles of death and rebirth, or the dance between the earthly and the divine. But beyond astronomy, there is something deeply human about Callanish. Unlike the fortress-like power of Stonehenge, the stones of Callanish feel almost gentle in their arrangement. They're slender, graceful, leaning slightly as if listening to the wind. They form avenues and arms radiating outward, converging on a central ring where ceremonies may have taken place. Some believe that the layout resembles a celestial cross, a symbol linking the four directions of the world. Others think it was meant to mirror constellations, perhaps the shape of Cygnus, the swan, a constellation associated with the passage of souls in ancient myth. Local legend, however, tells a different story, one steeped in mythic poetry. It is said that the stones were once giants who refused to embrace Christianity, and so they returned to stone for their defiance. In this story, the megaliths are not mere monuments, but beings, alive, punished, frozen in time. The legend may be symbolic, a way of remembering the pre-Christian reverence that once filled these lands. The people who came later, unable to understand the old ways, transformed them into myth. And yet, even in that myth, there lingers a strange truth. The stones do feel alive. They stand as if they once moved and might again under the right kind of moonlight. Walking among them at dusk, the wind sings through the tall grass, and one can almost imagine ancient processions, figures cloaked in furs and woven garments, carrying torches, their footsteps soft upon the earth. Perhaps they chanted to the rhythm of the waves below, invoking the balance of night and day, the power of the stars. The stones, rough to the touch, would have glowed in the firelight, their shadows merging and separating like dancers. These were moments not of spectacle, but of communion between people and sky, between time and eternity. In the modern world, we measure the heavens with satellites and equations. But at Callanish, long before such tools existed, people measured the heavens with devotion. They watched, year after year, how the moon traced her long arcs across the horizon. They noticed how certain stars vanished in winter and returned in spring. And they wove these patterns into stone, not as data, but as sacred truth. To them, the cosmos was not distant. It was intimate. Each cycle of the moon was a whisper from the divine. Each alignment of the stones was a gesture of faith. Callanish may also have served as a kind of pilgrimage site. Traces of dwellings and ritual structures nearby suggest that people came here from surrounding regions, perhaps to mark celestial events together. In those gatherings, songs and stories would have been shared, myths of creation, of life and death, of gods who walked among the stars. The stones, unmoving and eternal, bore silent witness to these gatherings, keeping the memory long after the voices had faded. Even now, when one stands in that circle, there is a sensation of presence, not haunting, but welcoming, as if the landscape itself remembers. The genius of Callanish lies in its dual nature. It is both scientific and spiritual, mathematical and mythical. Its builders observed the lunar cycles with precision that still impresses astronomers. Yet they did so not to control nature, but to align themselves with it. In that sense, the Callanish stones are not just a record of knowledge. They're a record of humility, an acknowledgement of the vast mystery surrounding human life. When the full moon rises over the island, its light turns the stones to silver. The moor stretches in all directions, quiet except for the rustle of the wind and the distant call of seabirds. It is easy, in that light, to forget the centuries between us and those who built these stones. The same moon that guided their rituals shines on us still. And though our languages have changed, our instruments have evolved, the longing that drove them to carve meaning into stone remains. We, too, look to the sky and search for connection. Perhaps that is what gives Callanish its timelessness. It does not belong to history alone. It belongs to the human spirit. Every stone stands like a question, ancient, eloquent, and unanswered. Who first imagined this alignment? What dreams guided their hands? What faith sustained their labor through the harsh Atlantic winds? These questions linger in the air, unanswered, yet strangely comforting. They remind us that not everything must be known. Some mysteries exist to be felt, not solved. As the night deepens, the stars begin to appear, bright, unblinking, endless. The stones cast long, dark shadows across the moor, and for a fleeting moment, it seems as if time itself slows. The pulse of the earth matches the pulse of the heavens. Somewhere in the vast quiet, the ancient and the present meet, and for an instant, they are one. The builders of Callanish are gone, their voices carried away by the wind, but what they built remains, an eternal prayer carved in stone, waiting for the moon to answer. In the highlands of Peru, hidden among mist and mountain silence, lies one of the most enigmatic sites on earth, Sacsayhuaman. It rises above the ancient city of Cusco like the bones of a giant. Its massive walls composed of enormous interlocking stones that seem impossible for any civilization without modern machinery to have built. When the sun strikes the stones at dawn, their surfaces glow with a warm gold, and one can almost hear the hum of ancient intention. It is here, amid the thin air of the Andes, that mystery deepens, not just of engineering, but of purpose, of power, of memory. Each stone in Sacsayhuaman seems to defy reason. Some weigh more than 300 tons, each carved with precision so exact that one cannot slip even the edge of a knife between them. The blocks are irregular, yet they fit together like the pieces of a vast, three-dimensional puzzle. No mortar binds them. They hold by weight and perfection alone. Earthquakes that have leveled cities have passed through Cusco again and again, yet these walls have never fallen. The stones yield and breathe with the planet, shifting slightly under stress, then returning, as though they are alive, a testament not only to human craftsmanship, but to a deep understanding of nature's rhythm. When Spanish chroniclers first saw Sacsayhuaman, they were awestruck. Some believed it to be the work of demons or giants. Others insisted it must have been built by a civilization even older than the Incas, a lost race, perhaps, or visitors from another realm. For the Inca themselves, the site was sacred. They spoke of it as a fortress, but also as the head of the great puma-shaped layout of ancient Cusco. To them, it was both earthly and cosmic, a place of power that connected heaven and earth. The zigzagging walls were not merely defensive structures. They mirrored the lightning bolts of the sky god Alapa, symbolizing divine energy descending into the world. Standing before those walls today, one feels small, not just in size, but in time. The stones seem to carry memory, as if they know something we have forgotten. They are smooth and ancient, yet untouched by decay. Their surfaces bear faint carvings, channels, and shapes that hint at lost purposes. Some archaeologists have suggested that Sacsayhuaman was part of a vast ceremonial complex, a place of initiation, of celestial observation, of ritual drama. Others see it as an architectural manifestation of duality, strength and grace, permanence and fluidity, heaven mirrored in stone. At night, under the cold, brilliant stars of the Andean sky, the stones seem to shift in meaning. The patterns of the walls echo the constellations above, the dark shapes the Incas saw not in the stars themselves, but in the spaces between them. For them, the Milky Way was a celestial river, and in its black voids they saw sacred animals, the llama, the serpent, the condor, symbols of life and renewal. Sacsayhuaman may have been built as a counterpart to that celestial realm, its layout forming a mirror of the heavens. The builders, in this sense, were not constructing a fortress at all, but a universe, one that humans could walk through and feel. The true mystery, however, lies in the craftsmanship. How were these enormous stones cut and fitted so precisely with no evidence of iron tools or wheels? Some researchers propose that they were shaped using friction and hammerstones, a feat requiring unimaginable time and labor. Others speculate about lost techniques, the softening of rock through unknown means, or even the use of sonic vibrations. The lack of tool marks, the perfectly contoured joints, and the intricate angles that lock stones together like gears in a machine, all these invite speculation. It feels as though the builders worked not against the stone, but with it, as if they listened to its structure, its grain, its natural form. In the local Quechua traditions, Sacsayhuaman is not just a ruin. It is a living being. The stones are said to be children of the earth, placed with ritual and prayer. Before each stone was set, offerings were made, coca leaves, chicha, animal fat, gifts to the spirits that dwell within the earth. The builders, guided by shamans, chose stones not only for their shape, but for their spirit. They did not impose form. They revealed it. In this worldview, architecture was an active conversation with the planet itself. To build was to harmonize with the breathing of the earth. When the Spanish conquered the Inca Empire, they dismantled much of Sacsayhuaman, using its stones to build their own churches and houses in Cusco below. Yet the largest stones, those massive, immovable giants, remained. They cannot be broken, could not be moved. They stand still, guardians of memory, their silence deeper now than ever. The city has changed. Empires have risen and fallen. But these walls endure, holding in their geometry the quiet knowledge of a vanished world. Even in ruin, Sacsayhuaman seems to pulse with presence. The site draws archaeologists, mystics, and dreamers alike. Some come seeking history. Others come seeking energy, drawn by the belief that the site sits upon a ley line, a channel of planetary force. And indeed, when one stands within the vast amphitheater of stone, the feeling is undeniable, a sense of being in a place not merely built, but awakened. The air hums softly. The wind carries voices from centuries ago. Perhaps what Sacsayhuaman truly represents is not lost technology or alien intervention, but a different relationship between humans and the natural world. Its builders did not separate engineering from spirituality, nor science from reverence. To them, to shape stone was to shape the self, to find balance between the material and the divine. Every curve, every joint was an act of devotion. The walls were not just walls, they were prayers made permanent. As the sun dips behind the mountains, the stones cast long shadows across the plateau. The air cools quickly, and the city of Cusco below begins to glow with modern light. Yet up here, time feels suspended. The same stars that once guided the Inca still burn above, their light unchanged. It is easy to imagine the ancient ceremonies that once filled this place. The sound of drums echoing off the stones, the scent of incense rising into the night, the people lifting their eyes toward the sacred sky. In that moment, the boundary between past and present dissolves. The mystery of Sacsayhuaman is not only in how it was built, but in what it awakens in us, a recognition that the world itself is alive, that stone and sky and human spirit are not separate things. The old builders may not have written books or left scrolls, but they left something far more enduring, the feeling that meaning can be built, not just spoken. As the night settles, a hush returns to the mountain. The stones gleam faintly beneath the starlight, each one a fragment of the earth shaped into order. Their silence is not emptiness, but fullness, a language older than words. Standing before them, one feels both the enormity of human achievement and the humility of being part of something timeless. The builders of Sacsayhuaman are gone, but their vision remains, carved into the very bones of the world, waiting for us to listen and to remember. In the far Pacific, where the ocean stretches endlessly and the horizon folds into the sky, there lies a remote island unlike any other, Rapa Nui, known to the world as Easter Island. Isolated by thousands of miles of open water, it is one of the most mysterious places on Earth. Scattered across its grassy plains and volcanic slopes are hundreds of colossal statues, the moai, carved for volcanic stone and standing with solemn, watchful faces. Their eyes once gazed inward, toward the heart of the island, as if guarding something sacred and unseen. They are both haunting and majestic, silent giants bearing the weight of forgotten stories. When the first Europeans arrived in the early 18th century, they could hardly believe that such massive figures had been created by the island's inhabitants. The moai stand up to 30 feet tall, some weighing over 80 tons. Yet the island holds no great forests, no beasts of burden, no visible tools of monumental labor. How, then, were these titans carved, transported, and raised in a place? This question has echoed for centuries, spawning theories both scholarly and fantastical, from lost civilizations to extraterrestrial intervention. But the true story, like the stones themselves, is more profound than any simple answer. Long before outsiders ever set foot on its shores, Rapa Nui was a world unto itself, a cradle of creativity, faith, and fragility. The Polynesians who first settled here around the 12th century brought with them not only their seafaring skill, but also a cosmology that bound them to nature and the ancestors. They saw the world as alive with spirit. Every mountain, every stone, every breath of wind. The Moai were not mere statues. They were vessels of power, embodiments of revered ancestors who watched over the living. To carve one was to give shape to memory, to ensure that the lineage endured even after death. At the quarry of Reina Raraku, where most of the Moai were carved, one can still see dozens of unfinished statues, half buried in the volcanic rock, as if the builders simply vanished mid-work. The surfaces of the Moai bear marks of chisel and hammer, testaments to labor that was both physical and spiritual. Each Moai was unique, its features stylized, yet deeply personal, a representation of an ancestor's spirit. Once carved, it was carefully transported across the island, often miles away, to its ahu, a stone platform near the coast. How they managed this remains one of archaeology's great mysteries. Some believe the statues were laid flat and dragged on sledges. Others argue that they were walked upright, rocked gently from side to side with ropes and coordinated movement, a theory that brings to mind the image of giants striding across the land under moonlight. When the Moai were finally raised upon their platforms, they were given coral eyes, symbols of awakening. They were no longer stone, they were spirit. They looked inland, toward the villages, to watch and bless the people. The landscape itself became sacred, a living temple where sky, earth, and ancestry met in harmony. The people of Rapa Nui called this energy mana, the life force that flows through all things. To maintain the Moai was to maintain balance, to ensure that mana continued to flow between the worlds of the living and the dead. But over time, something shifted. The island's resources began to dwindle. Trees that once provided canoes and tools grew scarce. The demands of carving and transporting ever larger statues may have strained the ecosystem beyond recovery. Competition between clans for prestige and spiritual power could have escalated into conflict. The Moai, once symbols of unity, became markers of rivalry. And then, at some unknown moment, the great era of building ended. Many statues were toppled, perhaps during a time of social upheaval or spiritual crisis. The Moai fell face down, their eyes darkened, their silence deepened. When European explorers arrived, they found a society struggling to survive, yet still rich in ritual and resilience. To them, the toppled statues appeared tragic, the ruins of a fallen civilization. But to the Rapa Nui people, the land and its spirits were not dead, they were resting. Even now, the descendants of those ancient builders continue to honor their ancestors, to speak their names, to keep alive the stories of creation. The Moai, though weathered and eroded, remain as bridges between the visible and the invisible. For centuries, speculation has surrounded the origins of Easter Island's culture. Some early writers suggested that the Moai were built by a lost race of giants or by voyagers from South America. Others imagined alien visitors imparting advanced technology. But the truth lies not in fantasy, but in the brilliance of Polynesian navigation, engineering, and faith. The same people who crossed thousands of miles of open ocean by reading the stars, currents, and winds were more than capable of building wonders from stone. The mystery of Easter Island is not how the Moai were built, but how deeply their creation reflected a worldview, one in which the sacred and the natural were one and the same. And yet, there is something undeniably haunting about the island. The Moai seem to carry an awareness beyond time, as if they remember both the glory and the fall of their makers. When you stand before them, the wind carries the sound of the ocean and the cries of seabirds, and for a moment, it feels as if the statues are listening. They face away from the sea, toward the land, as if forever waiting for the people who once prayed beneath them. At night, the sky over Rapa Nui opens in impossible clarity. Stars fill the heavens from horizon to horizon, their reflection shimmering in the black surface of the Pacific. The constellations that once guided the island's settlers shine in their ancient order. Orion, the Pleiades, the Southern Cross. One cannot help but imagine the early navigators, eyes lifted to those same stars, reading their stories, trusting them to lead the way across an endless ocean. The same constellations that shaped their voyages may also have shaped the alignments of the Moai, for some statues appear oriented to mark solstices and celestial events. Easter Island, in its loneliness, teaches a quiet lesson about the human spirit. It is a story of vision and devotion, but also of fragility, how the quest to honor the divine can sometimes consume the very world that sustains it. Yet the Moai still stand, not as monuments of failure, but as reminders of perseverance. Even after centuries of erosion, they hold their shape, their gaze, their mystery. Perhaps that is what draws us to them, the sense that they hold something of ourselves. We, too, build monuments in search of meaning, in defiance of time. We, too, shape stone and steel in the hope of speaking to eternity. But unlike the builders of Rapa Nui, we often forget to listen to the land, to the silence, to the balance that sustains life. The Moai, in their stillness, remind us of what endures when all else falls away. Reverence, memory, and a deep bond between the human soul and the earth. As dawn returns to the island, the statues turn gold in the rising sun. Their long shadows stretch across the grass, toward the distant volcanoes. The wind, as ever, whispers across the slopes, carrying the ocean's voice. Somewhere beyond sight, the ancestors are listening. And for those who pause long enough to truly see, Easter Island reveals its greatest secret, that every stone, every silence is alive, and that the spirit of those ancient builders still watches, still remembers, across the vastness of time. In the rugged hills of Malta, where the Mediterranean sun casts long shadows over limestone cliffs and turquoise waters, stand the megalithic temples of Hagar Kim and Najdra. These ancient structures, older than the pyramids of Egypt, are among the oldest freestanding monuments in the world, dating back over 5,500 years. Rising from the landscape in irregular, weathered stones, they immediately convey a sense of deliberate purpose, a rhythm in the placement, a harmony in the design, as though the builders were in dialogue with both the land and the sky. Here, the intersection of architecture, astronomy, and ritual is palpable, a quiet testament to human ingenuity in the dawn of civilization. Walking among the fallen and upright stones, one notices the care with which each megalith has been shaped. The surfaces are smooth, the edges carved, and in many cases, the stones bear intricate petroglyphs, spirals, concentric circles, and symbolic motifs that seem to echo natural cycles. These carvings are not merely decoration. They are a language, a codified expression of belief. Archaeologists suggest that they represent fertility, life, and cosmic order, an attempt to capture the invisible forces that govern existence. To stand within these temples is to feel the pulse of a culture attuned to the rhythms of the universe. Najdra, with its precise orientation to the solstices, exemplifies the builder's understanding of the heavens. On the summer solstice, the first rays of the sun pierce the temple's entrance and illuminate the inner altar. On the winter solstice, the light strikes a different section, marking the changing seasons. This is not coincidental. It is evidence of careful observation over generations. The people who built these temples were keen astronomers, their knowledge encoded in stone long before the advent of written language. For them, the cycles of the sun and moon were intertwined with agricultural fertility, the ebb and flow of life, and the spiritual harmony of their community. The scale of the temples suggests a society organized and collaborative, capable of moving massive stones without metal tools or wheels. Some megaliths weigh several tons, and yet they were quarried, transported, and erected with remarkable precision. How this was achieved remains a matter of speculation. Some theories propose the use of wooden sledges, rollers, or earthen ramps. Others suggest the employment of counterweights and levers. But the technical challenge, while impressive, only hints at a deeper truth. These temples were not built solely for practical purposes. They were built to embody belief, to anchor human life within a framework of cosmic understanding. The interiors of these temples reveal an architectural sophistication that surprises modern observers. They are composed of multiple chambers, often with a central corridor leading to altars or focal points. Each chamber is carefully proportioned, creating spaces that evoke ritual intimacy while maintaining grandeur. Acoustics were likely considered. The resonant hum within certain chambers suggests they may have been used for chanting, drumming, or other ceremonial sounds. The interplay of sound, light, and structure indicates a culture that integrated sensory experience into spiritual practice. The temples were more than stone. They were instruments of perception, designed to alter consciousness, to make participants feel connected to something larger than themselves. The location of Hagar Kim and Najdra also speaks to intention. Perched on hilltops overlooking fertile plains and the sea, they command views of the surrounding landscape. This positioning may have symbolized control over land and resources, but it also aligns with celestial events. The horizon itself became part of the temple's architecture, a canvas for the sun, moon, and stars. By integrating the natural world into their constructions, the builders acknowledged that humans are not separate from nature, but participants in its cycles. The stones, in essence, were both markers and mediators, bridging earthly life with cosmic rhythm. Yet despite all this, the temples hold profound mystery. The symbolism of the carvings is only partially understood. Spirals and concentric circles appear repeatedly, hinting at cycles, journeys, or perhaps metaphysical concepts now lost. Some researchers interpret them as representations of the sun or the path of the soul, while others see them as maps of the cosmos, encoded in a language of geometry and pattern. The repetition of these symbols suggests that the builders were communicating a sophisticated worldview, one in which the material, spiritual, and cosmic were inseparable. The endurance of these structures is remarkable. Surviving millennia of wind, rain, and occasional seismic activity, the temples remain largely intact. Some stones have collapsed, and many carvings have weathered into faint traces, yet the essence of the design persists. It is as though the builders understood permanence not only in physical terms, but in symbolic resonance. They created forms that could outlast individual lives, empires, and even languages. Each stone carries memory, and each chamber is a vessel of time. Visitors today are struck not only by the technical achievement, but by the aura that radiates from these sites. Standing amid the stones, one senses the lives that unfolded here. Rituals of birth, death, and renewal, ceremonies that marked the passing of seasons, and the careful observation of celestial events. The temples were spaces of knowledge, devotion, and community, where the physical and spiritual worlds intertwined seamlessly. They invite contemplation and humility, a recognition that humanity's earliest architects were guided by curiosity, reverence, and imagination in equal measure. It is also possible to perceive in these structures a cautionary tale. The builders of Malta achieved greatness without the use of advanced technology, yet their civilization eventually declined. Environmental pressures, overpopulation, and resource depletion may have played a role. There is a lesson embedded in their stones. Mastery of the cosmos and skill in construction do not guarantee survival. Sustainability, balance, and respect for the natural world remain as vital today as they were thousands of years ago. As the sun sets over the Mediterranean, light spills across the limestone in hues of gold and amber. The shadows stretch across the altars and corridors, highlighting the careful curves and angles of the megaliths. A hush seems to descend, and for a moment, the past is tangible. The voices of ancient people echo faintly in the mind, and the rhythm of the seasons beats through the air. In this quiet, one realizes that Hagar Kim and Najdra are more than archaeological sites. They are living expressions of human curiosity, devotion, and the desire to align life with the cosmos. The temples of Malta remind us that history is not merely a record of events, but a dialogue across millennia. They challenge modern assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, not just in engineering, but in thought, observation, and spiritual depth. Each stone, each alignment, each carved spiral is a testament to a worldview that saw no division between earth and sky, human and divine. And as night falls and the stars emerge over the Mediterranean horizon, these temples remain silent yet eloquent teachers, inviting us to look up, to wonder, and to remember our place in the vast cycles of time. In the arid highlands of Peru, nestled between jagged peaks and deep valleys, lies another testament to the extraordinary vision of the ancient world, the city of Machu Picchu. Perched precariously upon a ridge above the Urubamba River, it is a marvel of both engineering and imagination, a place where stone and sky meet in silent dialogue. The first sight of its terraces, temples, and plazas from above is breathtaking. A city carved from the mountains themselves, harmonized perfectly with the contours of the land. Clouds swirl around the peaks, and the mist drifts through its stone streets, lending the site an ethereal, almost otherworldly presence. Machu Picchu was constructed in the 15th century. Its creation seems to defy logic even by modern standards. Each building is composed of carefully cut stones, perfectly fitted together without mortar. The walls lean slightly inward, a subtle design that grants them stability against the frequent earthquakes of the region. Stairways wind naturally along the slopes, and terraces channel water efficiently, preventing erosion while providing fertile land for cultivation. The level of integration between architecture and environment is astonishing. It is a city that does not impose itself upon the mountain, but emerges from it, a living organism of stone. The location itself is a mystery. Why was Machu Picchu built here, hidden among the clouds and cliffs? Some historians suggest it was a royal retreat for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, a sacred sanctuary removed from the bustle of Cusco. Others propose that it was a religious site dedicated to the worship of Inti, the sun god. Certain structures, such as the Intihuatana stone, a carved rock believed to function as an astronomical clock or calendar, hint at a purpose beyond mere habitation. The sun's alignment with windows and walls during solstices and equinoxes shows a sophisticated understanding of celestial movements. Every stone seems placed with intention, every pathway calculated for both utility and ritual significance. The ingenuity of the Inca engineers is evident in the city's construction. The stones were quarried from nearby outcrops, yet many are massive, some weighing several tons, and yet they fit together with astonishing precision. How they were transported and positioned on such steep terrain remains one of the enduring mysteries. Scholars suggest a combination of levers, ramps, and sheer manpower, yet the methods remain speculative. Even more remarkable is the way the city blends defensive and spiritual considerations. Its terraces and retaining walls protect against landslides, while the temples and plazas allow for ceremonial gatherings that honor both the living and the divine. Walking through Machu Picchu, one is struck not only by the skill of its builders, but by the underlying philosophy that shaped it. The Inca viewed nature as sacred, and every aspect of the city reflects this worldview. The terraces follow the natural slope of the mountain. Water channels trace the path of streams. The placement of temples often corresponds with peaks considered sacred. The city is a demonstration of Ani, the Inca principle of reciprocity and harmony with the world. Humans were not masters of nature, but participants in its rhythm, and Machu Picchu embodies this principle in stone. The ceremonial spaces of Machu Picchu hint at a culture deeply attuned to the cycles of life and death. The Temple of the Sun, constructed with semicircular walls that capture the light during solstices, may have been a center for sun worship and astronomical observation. Nearby, the Room of the Three Windows aligns with sacred peaks, suggesting symbolic gateways connecting the earthly and spiritual realms. Each alignment, each orientation, communicates an understanding that human life exists within a larger cosmic order. The city, in essence, is a three-dimensional map of the heavens and the earth intertwined. Machu Picchu's mystery is compounded by its sudden abandonment. When the Spanish conquered the Inca Empire, they never discovered the city. For reasons still debated, it was abandoned and reclaimed by jungle for centuries. By the time explorers stumbled upon it in the early 20th century, much of its purpose had been lost to memory. Yet even in ruin, the city's aura endures. The precision of the stonework, the harmony of its terraces with the mountain, and the subtle astronomical alignments all speak to a civilization that merged practical knowledge with spiritual insight in a way that continues to captivate modern observers. The city also reveals a profound connection between labor, community, and belief. Constructing Machu Picchu required not only skill, but a collective effort sustained by social cohesion and shared purpose. The population would have organized labor according to the MITA system, a rotational labor tribute that ensured both agricultural productivity and monumental construction. This system reflects a societal model in which communal effort was both a civic duty and a spiritual practice. Each stone moved was an act of devotion. Each terrace built a gesture of harmony, each alignment with the sun a testament to observation and faith. Even in the 21st century, Machu Picchu continues to inspire awe. Scholars debate whether its purpose was primarily religious, administrative, or residential, but the answer seems secondary to the experience of standing within it. The terraces cascade down the mountainside like steps into eternity, and the plazas open to views that stretch beyond imagination. The hum of the wind through the ruins and the mist swirling over the peaks create a sense of timelessness. For a visitor, the city is less a relic and more a living presence, a place where the past feels immediate, where the ingenuity and devotion of its builders can still be felt. Machu Picchu also challenges our assumptions about ancient knowledge. The city is not just a product of labor and engineering. It is a manifestation of cosmology. The careful orientation to the sun, the integration of water systems, and the blending of construction with the mountain landscape all indicate a sophisticated understanding of geology, hydrology, and astronomy. The Inca achieved this without written language or metal tools of the scale available elsewhere, relying instead on observation, experimentation, and an intimate knowledge of their environment. Perhaps the greatest lesson of Machu Picchu is its reminder of human potential when creativity, spirituality, and practical skill converge. The city endures not because it was fortified against time, but because it was conceived as part of the natural and cosmic order. Its stones speak to a philosophy in which life, death, earth, and sky are interconnected. The city is both a marvel of construction and a meditation on the human place within the universe. As the sun sets over the Andes, Machu Picchu is bathed in soft golden light, the mountains casting long, shifting shadows across the terraces. Clouds swirl, moving through the valleys, carrying whispers of the past. In this quiet, one can imagine the Inca standing upon the terraces, observing the sky, offering prayers to Inti, and feeling the pulse of the earth beneath their feet. Though the centuries have passed and the empire is gone, the city remains, a testament to vision, skill, and reverence. Machu Picchu is not just a place. It is an enduring invitation to witness how human hands, guided by insight and devotion, can harmonize with the world in ways that speak across time. In the deserts of Egypt, under the relentless sun and against the shifting sands, stand some of humanity's most iconic and enigmatic creations, the pyramids of Giza. These monumental structures, rising with geometric precision from the arid landscape, have captivated the imagination of generations. They are, on one level, marvels of engineering, precise, imposing, and enduring. Yet they are more than that. Each pyramid is a silent chronicle of ambition, belief, and mystery, a stone testament to a civilization that sought to reach beyond the earthly realm and touch eternity. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest of the trio, dominates the plateau with its immense presence. Constructed around 4,500 years ago, it originally soared to 481 feet, making it the tallest man-made structure for millennia. The sheer scale defies comprehension, and the precision of its alignment is staggering. Its base is nearly perfectly level, the sides oriented almost exactly to the cardinal points. Some stones weigh over 70 tons, yet were transported across the desert without the aid of modern machinery. How the ancient Egyptians accomplished such feats remains a source of fascination and speculation, as theories range from ingenious ramp systems to methods that may now be lost to history. Beyond the logistical challenge lies the symbolic purpose. The pyramids were tombs, yes, but also instruments of cosmic order. They were designed as part of a grand vision connecting the king to the divine. In Egyptian cosmology, the pharaoh was not merely a ruler, but an intermediary between the gods and humanity, a living embodiment of divine will. The pyramid's shape itself, a perfect triangle pointing to the sky, represented a stairway or channel through which the king's soul could ascend to the heavens, joining the eternal sun and the gods beyond. In this sense, the pyramids were both practical and spiritual, engineering and theology intertwined in stone. Surrounding the pyramids, the complex includes temples, causeways, and smaller subsidiary pyramids, each with specific functions that highlight the sophistication of ancient Egyptian ritual life. The mortuary temples were places of offering, where priests and family members performed rites to sustain the deceased in the afterlife. The causeways connecting the pyramids to the Nile signify the journey of the soul, linking the eternal resting place to the flow of life itself. Every detail, every placement of stone, was deliberate, revealing a civilization deeply attuned to symbolism, order, and cosmic harmony. The precision in the construction is not merely geometric. Many researchers have noted advanced knowledge of astronomy embedded in the pyramid's design. The alignment with the stars in Orion's belt, for instance, is thought to reflect the Egyptians' beliefs about the afterlife, linking the pharaoh with Osiris, the god of the dead. The chambers within the Great Pyramid are aligned with the pole star and other significant celestial bodies, suggesting a level of astronomical observation and application that rivals some modern techniques. In this way, the pyramid was more than a tomb. It was a machine of the cosmos, designed to ensure the immortality of the king and to harmonize earthly existence with the movements of the heavens. Walking among the pyramids today, one is struck not only by their scale, but by the aura of mystery that surrounds them. Centuries of exploration, excavation, and scholarship have peeled back some layers of their history, yet countless questions remain. How were the stones transported with such accuracy? How were the labor forces organized to move such immense materials without modern equipment? What rituals accompanied the construction, and what chants or prayers might have filled the air as each block was raised into place? The questions themselves heighten the sense of awe, reminding visitors that these structures were conceived as bridges between the mortal and the eternal. The Great Pyramid is also a testament to the collective effort of a civilization. The workers were not slaves, as often mythologized, but skilled laborers, craftsmen, and farmers who labored in rotational service during the Nile's inundation. Their work was a contribution to a sacred project, blending devotion, artistry, and engineering. Evidence of workers' villages, bakeries, and cemeteries nearby illustrates a society capable of massive coordination and logistical sophistication. These were human hands shaping eternity, each touch infused with reverence and care. Beyond Khufu, the pyramids of Khafre and Menkaure add further depth to the plateau's narrative. Khafre's pyramid, slightly smaller but perfectly proportioned, retains traces of its polished limestone casing at the apex, a reminder that the original pyramids shone brilliantly in the desert sun, gleaming like beacons. Menkaure's pyramid, though more modest in scale, demonstrates the same commitment to precision and harmony. Together, the three pyramids form a celestial map, echoing patterns found in the stars, reinforcing the notion that the plateau was conceived as both earthly monument and cosmic mirror. Yet the pyramids' enduring allure is not solely in their physical grandeur. They are repositories of history, culture, and memory. Hieroglyphs, though limited within the Great Pyramid itself, hint at the complexity of Egyptian thought and ritual. Tombs surrounding the pyramids contain artifacts, inscriptions, and funerary texts that speak of beliefs, hopes, and the intricate understanding of life, death, and the afterlife. Each layer of discovery uncovers more than mere archaeology. It reveals philosophy, theology, and the human impulse to seek meaning beyond the immediate and the material. The pyramids have also inspired myths and theories that blur the line between fact and imagination. Stories of lost technologies, advanced mathematics, and even extraterrestrial involvement have persisted for centuries. While most claims are speculative, their persistence reflects the awe these monuments inspire. The ancient Egyptians achieved feats that continue to challenge engineers, architects, and historians. This tension between the known and the unknown is central to their power. They are at once explainable and inexplicable, human and yet transcendent. Environmental context also shaped their construction. The plateau of Giza offered not only a foundation of stable bedrock, but also a visual connection to the Nile, the lifeblood of Egyptian civilization. The proximity to limestone quarries and the Nile allowed for transportation of massive stones, yet the methods required to achieve precision alignment remain extraordinary. The builders understood their landscape intimately, not merely as a site for labor, but as a canvas for symbolic expression. The desert, river, and sky were all participants in the creation of something larger than a monument. They were collaborators in a sacred act. Even today, standing at the base of a pyramid, one can feel the pulse of intention embedded in the stones. The heat of the desert, the shadows stretching across the limestone, and the wind that sweeps over the plateau all seem to carry whispers of the past. Perhaps it was the chants of laborers, or the prayers of priests, or simply the weight of human endeavor aligned with cosmic design. The silence between the stones is as potent as the stones themselves, allowing the imagination to reach back across millennia and sense the spirit that built them. The Great Pyramid, with its interior chambers and hidden passageways, continues to reveal secrets even today. Advanced scanning techniques have identified voids and cavities that may contain further chambers, sparking speculation about undiscovered spaces and hidden functions. Each new discovery invites reflection on the ingenuity of the ancient Egyptians and their capacity to merge practicality, spirituality, and vision into a single, monumental creation. The pyramids remain not static relics, but living questions, a dialogue across time, challenging us to contemplate the human capacity for creativity, devotion, and understanding. Their significance extends beyond Egypt. Across the world, ancient builders sought to align stone, earth, and sky. From Malta to Peru, from Scotland to Easter Island, there's a recurring impulse to honor the cosmos, to enshrine human life within the greater order of the universe. The pyramids of Giza, however, stand at the apex of this impulse, a fusion of ambition, intellect, and reverence that continues to inspire and baffle. They are, in essence, humanity's first attempt to reach the eternal through stone, geometry, and devotion. At sunset, the pyramids are transformed. Golden light softens their edges, shadows lengthen, and the desert temperature cools, revealing a subtle palette of ochre and amber. The horizon is vast, the sky streaked with pink and violet, and the monuments seem to glow from within. In that light, the Great Pyramid is no longer simply a tomb. It is a testament to vision, a monument to human imagination, and a symbol of the enduring quest to touch something greater than ourselves. As darkness falls, the stars emerge in the Egyptian sky. Orion's belt shines brightly, echoing the alignments of the pyramids below. The river glimmers faintly in the distance, and the desert stretches endlessly. Standing among the stones, it becomes clear that the pyramids are not just relics of the past, but living invitations to wonder, to question, and to connect with a civilization that sought to bridge the human and the divine. They are monuments not only of stone, but of aspiration, echoing across millennia, whispering of humanity's eternal longing to understand, to create, and to endure. In this silence, one can sense the pulse of time itself, measured not in years, but in the persistence of vision, the alignment of stone with sky, and the devotion of countless hands and hearts. The pyramids of Giza endure as both mystery and message, bridging the known and unknown, the earthly and the eternal, calling us to remember that the pursuit of meaning is a force as enduring as the stones themselves. And in that quiet reflection, we are reminded that the builders of the old world were not merely creating tombs or monuments. They were reaching, with every carefully placed block, for something timeless, a connection with the universe that continues to speak to us today. In the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca lines stretch across the desert like a vast, ancient canvas. Etched between 500 BCE and 500 CE, these enormous geoglyphs depict animals, plants, and geometric shapes, some hundreds of feet long. From the ground, they appear as subtle scratches. From the air, their full form emerges, a hummingbird poised in flight, a spider frozen mid-step, a monkey curled into spirals. Their scale and precision are staggering, and their purpose remains one of history's great enigmas. The Nazca people carefully remove the reddish surface stones to reveal lighter earth beneath, creating lines that have endured for centuries. Scholars propose these geoglyphs functioned as astronomical markers, sacred pathways, or offerings to the gods, possibly invoking water or fertility in the harsh desert. The choice of animals, hummingbirds, spiders, and monkeys, may reflect symbolic meaning, representing vitality, fertility, or mythological significance. Construction required remarkable coordination and geometric understanding. Straight lines stretch for miles with minimal deviation, suggesting careful planning and communal effort. The full designs, visible mainly from above, hint at a perspective that engaged both human and divine vision. The desert preserved the lines, yet they remain fragile. Modern efforts aim to protect them from erosion and human interference. Today, the Nazca lines inspire awe as both technical marvels and profound expressions of human imagination, bridging earth and sky, past and present. They remind us that humans have always sought to communicate with forces greater than themselves and leave a lasting imprint on the world. High in the Peruvian Andes, Machu Picchu stands as a testament to the Inca civilization's ingenuity. Built around the 15th century, its stone terraces, temples, and urban planning harmonize with the steep mountainsides, blending utility, spirituality, and beauty. The Incas carved terraces to prevent erosion, manage water, and create arable land, showcasing engineering precision that allowed sustainable agriculture at extreme altitudes. Beyond function, Machu Picchu embodies cosmological significance. Structures align with solstices and cardinal points, reflecting the Incas' deep understanding of celestial cycles. Temples such as the Intihuatana, or hitching post of the sun, mark solar positions and likely played roles in rituals celebrating the sun, the source of life and spiritual energy for the Inca. The city's construction required massive stones transported, shaped, and fitted without mortar, illustrating exceptional skill. Terraces and pathways demonstrate social organization and communal effort, uniting thousands of workers towards shared vision. Machu Picchu was more than a city. It was a sacred landscape integrating human life, nature, and cosmos, designed to inspire awe, maintain harmony, and honor the spiritual principles of the Inca world. Even today, wandering through the terraces, temples, and plazas evokes wonder. The fusion of natural beauty, astronomical alignment, and architectural mastery invites reflection on human potential, ingenuity, and the timeless desire to leave a lasting, meaningful imprint on the world. Across Europe, from Brittany to Cornwall and the plains of England, megalithic sites reveal an ancient fascination with stone, cosmos, and community. Karnak in France hosts thousands of upright menhirs arranged in precise lines, some over 20 feet tall, while Avebury in England contains vast henges and stone circles, inviting ritual movement through monumental spaces. These constructions reflect social cohesion, astronomical observation, and spiritual devotion. Many stones align with solstices and equinoxes, connecting human activity with celestial cycles. Subtle carvings and cup marks suggest symbolic or ritual meanings, encoding knowledge and belief into the landscape. The effort required to quarry, transport, and erect these stones demonstrates both physical skill and collective vision. The monuments endure as spaces of reflection and awe, harmonizing human presence with natural terrain and cosmic patterns. Despite centuries of erosion and change, their silent testimony remains, offering insight into a worldview that saw no separation between life, death, earth, and sky. European megaliths remind us that the pursuit of understanding and meaning is universal, spanning time and geography, and that human aspiration has long sought connection with forces beyond the self. As we conclude our journey across the ancient world, the magnitude of human creativity and curiosity becomes clear. From Egypt's pyramids to Peru's terraces and geoglyphs, from Stonehenge to Europe's megaliths, these monuments reveal a common impulse: to understand, to honor, and to leave a lasting mark. They are physical achievements and spiritual expressions, blending labor, devotion, and observation of the cosmos. These sites remind us of the delicate balance between knowledge and mystery. Despite modern study, questions remain. How were stones transported, geoglyphs designed, or terraces built with such precision? Yet it is this very mystery that inspires awe, inviting reflection on human aspiration, ingenuity, and our place in the universe. Standing among these ancient structures, one senses continuity with the past, a connection to civilizations that observe the same sun, moon, and stars. They remind us that human creativity and reverence transcend time, and that the desire to understand, to create, and to communicate with forces greater than ourselves is eternal. In their enduring presence, these monuments teach us patience, humility, and wonder, leaving us with a quiet meditation on the infinite dialogue between humanity and the cosmos.